Well, I don't know. You're in Brussels, and of course, as a journalist, you hear different things from what I would see or hear as a government representative. We're still working. Our ambition is to achieve a consensus-built, effective, reformed Stability and Growth Pact before the end of the year. I think it's essential for the credibility of the European Union. It's very clear we need to have new reformed and simplified rules, but we also need compliance and adherence to those rules. Now, there are a number of issues which are clearly still big sticking points at a technical level, and at a political level we'll discuss issues such as safeguards, the transparency and the measurability of debt reduction, with the space for reforms and investments. But you're right, or it's a fair statement to say we're certainly not there yet.
Well, you are the chair of the Finance Minister Coalition for Climate Change, which is a very important topic and one of your many hats. You know, the word and that I have the biggest question about is finance. Where is that financing going to come from? Because on one hand, you're having the discussions with other European finance ministers about the need for further fiscal consolidation, tighter rules, et cetera. But then on the other hand, you're talking about these big ambitious plans to finance the response to climate change. So where does that money come from?
Yeah, I think there are two issues. One of them is fiscal consolidation, equally heeding the call by Kristalina Georgieva that shows that subsidies alone will put countries into greater debt, those that can afford it, i.e. choose, norm setting, pricing, carbon taxation, dependence on how you want to organize your economy. And ultimately, the coalition of climate ministers for finance for climate action is focused on mainstreaming climate action in every budget. And additionality of finance needs to come from the private sector, but for that you need good governance, you need to have anti-corruption, and you need to have the big donors also beef up their IDA replenishments. We need to sort of walk the talk, but we need to bring it together. In my experience in a former life as Minister for International Cooperation, or aid as it's called in the Netherlands, I often battled with ministers of finance. Now I'm on this side of the equation. I know the centrality of finance in making the climate action toolkit move. It's the only way forward, through legislation, but also tasking and asking the private investors. And they're very keen. We can move from billions to trillions, but we have to provide for the enabling environment, and ministers of finance and governments need to do that and can do that. But time is of the essence. We're already way past midnight.
Way past midnight. Minister, regardless of what happens in the Dutch election, you've already said that you're retiring from politics. So I would just like to ask you really, what's your advice for young female leaders as you prepare to leave this position?
Twofold. My advice would be, maybe not dissimilar to what I've done, first build a professional career. I've worked more than 30 years internationally at different levels. I worked my way up through the ladder. It makes you independent, it makes you more resilient. You're not dependent on political successes, and you can hold your ground. At the same time, continue to lean in. My generation has tried to pave the way. Lean in, be there, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. The previous Dutch political leader, my female predecessor, who was assassinated in Dutch politics, in her Dutch political life, she said, politics is too important to be left to men alone. That's my big advice.